I would say the biggest question mark, and we probably should talk to Mike about this a little bit because he doesn't really get a chance to join us on these conversations. What position group do you think the Bengals need the most consistency out of in order to make a run for the playoffs, Mike?
I sat down with some friends before the season and talked about this. I said the Bengals' path to missing the playoff would be through the pass rush and the secondary, and that's proven to be true. If I had to pick one of the two, I really do think it is the pass rush. I mean, having a lethal pass rush just makes the secondary's job easier. But kind of changing course here, I really do. You talked about coming out of the bye week. I think that if we don't see just supremely physical play out of Cam Taylor-Britt against George Pickens next Sunday, I'm going to be not happy whatsoever. I mean, if you can take away George Pickens, I really don't see a path to the Steelers winning this game. I've continued and will continue to call the Pittsburgh Steelers an inept offense that will hold back their aspirations to making a playoff push. You can win the turnover battle and you can play good defense as much as you want, but there's only so many times Russell Wilson can put a moon ball directly into George Pickens' lap. If you have a physical corner who can play well, we've seen what the ceiling for Cam Taylor-Britt can look like. I don't think at this point, I think we kind of have our questions answered in terms of what he looks like from a long-term perspective. But in terms of an individual game, coming out and playing physical and playing well against George Pickens, that's something that I will really be looking for as a fan in this upcoming game against the Steelers coming out of the bye. Because, I mean, at this point, it's really Cam Taylor-Britt in the secondary, at least in the corner room. I know you got Mike Hilton playing in the slot, playing the nickel, but without DJ Turner, without Dax Hill, I mean, he's going to have to step up and carry this unit for the rest of the season. And if he doesn't, let's be real. The playoff hopes are thin. Yeah. They're very thin. But if he is going to have to play, I mean, I remember a year ago, people were saying future All-Pro Cam Taylor-Britt. He's going to have to play like that future All-Pro Cam Taylor-Britt for the next handful of games if the Bengals have a hope of making a run down the stretch this year.
Yeah. I agree with you. That talk was very interesting, but I do think that applying more pressure on a quarterback creates havoc in the backfield. And I think you make a lot of people's lives a lot easier. I wonder will we see any change-ups in the defensive back room, whether it be from the Geno zone at free safety, which I don't know if we'll see that, or obviously I'm guessing Josh Newton is slated to be now a starter alongside Cam Taylor-Britt. Listen, no one's going to run through that door right now and save this Bengals team. So you have to ask yourself, where do we have the most bodies right now that can probably help our defense change? And when I look at it, it really is the defensive line. You brought back Raymond Johnson, although he's on the practice squad. You still got Myles Murphy out there. Find ways to utilize that guy, get that guy in the field. If Sam Hubbard's not healthy, okay, let's get that guy off the field. Let's get more guys out there. Let's see. We talked about it on State of the Jungle a couple weeks back. I think Joseph Ossai is so huge for the second half because you need someone to be able to extend pressure beyond a Trey Hendrickson. You need somebody to make Trey Hendrickson's life a lot easier. Who's that going to be? I don't think Sheldon Rankins is turning over a new leaf in the second half of the football season. So swap that guy out. We started seeing guys like Chris Jenkins get more snaps. BJ Hill obviously being in and out of the lineup with injury. But do you move Myles Murphy more on the inside? Do you move, because honestly, I would say that's where he's had the most success in his NFL career so far. When the Bengals moved him into the interior of the defensive line, we saw him be able to create a lot of pressure, create a lot of havoc. And I saw him even be able to bring up a couple double teams because that size is such a hard thing to kind of deal with. But does that make life easier for guys like Trey Hendrickson? Does that open up opportunities for guys like Joseph Ossai? The cool thing about this is you have Cooper Rush on the schedule. You have Russell Wilson on the schedule, which is interesting. I wonder, does Russell Wilson have a problem throwing the deep ball? Somebody brought up an interesting point. The Steelers consistently take him out for Justin Fields on deep ball situations, and if they want to launch the ball down the field. I wonder that. So does that I know Russell Wilson can obviously extend plays. Yeah. I do know he will take deep shots at points. But you're facing the next couple of offenses you're facing are very how do I say this without
containable?
Yes, containable. I think containable is the perfect word to use. I think the next couple of offenses you're facing are extremely containable. And I'll keep saying what I've been saying, just don't be someone's get right game. Justin Herbert and that offense played like they never had all season against this Bengals secondary. And I think that just speaks to their I guess the lack of confidence in the Bengals secondary. One thing I will say is the Chargers have some good tackles. They have some underrated tackles, and I think that they were able to stave off a pass rush from Trey Hendrickson. But I also think that some of the guys you've got coming up don't have as big of a uh I would say the tackles aren't that big of a worry for some of these other teams coming up. But again, we have a tendency to sometimes make these teams look a lot better than what they are offensively. But I think being sound and knowing assignments and being locked in is super, super important. I like to see Zach Taylor. I'll keep beating the drum. It wouldn't be a show if I didn't say this. I don't care that T. Higgins is back. Still find a way to get Mike Gesicki involved. Right? That's just that simple. Tanner Hudson should not be out snapping Mike Gesicki, especially in the pass in the passing game. That should not just happen. I don't understand the 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 infinity of love that is being shown to a Tanner Hudson on a weekly basis. So for me, bring the guy in that you sign for a particular reason. Could you imagine him and T. Higgins in the red zone?
Yeah.
With Jamar Chase in the slot? Who are you guarding? What are you doing? Right? To me, it's just it really doesn't have to be that big of a rocket science. To me, personnel football is going to be so huge down the stretch for the Bengals. Situational coaching is going to be so huge down the stretch for the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't really care too much for for the conversation, the talk of people saying we're going to beat this. Go out there and prove it. Go out team and punch a team in the mouth and show that you can do it. All right? Be consistent. That's my biggest thing.